Hi everyone. Today I'm going to share with you my mom's recipe for meat sauce and pair it with my recipe for gluten-free meatballs for the ultimate dinner, my husband's favorite dinner ever, spaghetti and meatballs. This is the dish that basically won his heart, and for special occasions I make this for him because I know that's what he will always want. It's such a great freezer meal and just an all-around excellent dish. So let's get started and I'll show you how to make it. I start by browning the meats, and in this case I'm using hot Italian sausage because that's our favorite. If you can only get the links, just remove them from the casings and brown the ground meat. Sometimes I'm able to get it already in bulk like I showed you earlier, but there's no need for any oil because there's plenty of fat in the sausage. My mom has always used bulk sausage, like breakfast sausage for this, like Jimmy Dean's. But because me and my husband absolutely love Italian sausage, that's what I started using years ago, and it just stuck, and I've been doing it ever since. So after you brown the sausage and drain it, then brown the ground beef. Now, all of these amounts I'm using are double because I'm making a double recipe, but I got this large 5-pound like roll of ground beef, and I saw Robert Irvine using it before, one of these large rolls of ground beef, and he said there's no diminished quality or anything in it, so just go ahead and use that if that's all you can find. So once you have both meats browned and drained, set them aside and we'll start on the sauce. And I'm adding a little bit of olive oil to the same pot, and I'm stirring in some chopped fresh garlic. I personally don't like to brown the garlic, so I immediately add the tomato paste right after. And I'm using 2 cans, so normally this would be 1 can. The recipe card is going to list all of the quantities for just one batch. And then here's my little trick for getting a more flavorful sauce. I use a beef marrow bone, or 2 in this case, because I'm making a double batch. When this has done its job in the sauce of releasing some of that marrow, you can then remove it later on. It really gives the sauce this flavor that won't necessarily stand out. People would just be like, what is that flavor? And then I add in a good amount of dried oregano, as well as dried thyme and basil, salt and pepper, and finally just a little bit of sugar, which is totally optional. Sometimes I add the sugar, sometimes I forget, and it's just fine. I think it really depends on the acidity of the tomatoes you're using. So saute all of this together for a few minutes until the tomato paste gets kind of caramelized. So now I'm going to add in a good glug of red wine, and in this case I'm using Cabernet Sauvignon, but I've also used Merlot in the past with the same great results. And I'm going to deglaze the pan and make sure to scrape up any of the bits on the bottom of the pan. That's where all the flavor is, they say. Then I'm going to add back in the browned meat. And make sure you drain all of the fat before you add it back in, of course. Then add in what would normally be 2 cans of tomato sauce. But of course, I'm making a double batch, so it's going to be 4 cans of tomato sauce. My mom has always used this brand, Contadina, and that's what I always use. I like the flavor of it, but if you want to use some other brand that's more relevant in your area, go for it. And then when you're done dumping the cans in, then fill them up with water and dump that in as well. And that kind of does 2 things. It makes more of a sauce that will reduce down, and it also cleans out your cans so you can put them right in the recycle bin. So stir this up, and then it's pretty much already on a good high heat. So we're going to cover this with a lid slightly ajar and allow it to come to a good boil. And then we'll reduce it to a simmer and let it simmer for a good 3 to 4 hours. Now, I already had another one going, just a single batch, to show you how much this reduces down. And you could actually reduce it even more if you're using it for something like lasagna, which I'll be posting on the blog in the near future, my mom's lasagna, which is legendary in our family. So we can now remove the marrow bone as it's done its job and just discard it. See how perfect this meat sauce is? It is just such a family favorite. We love it so much, and it can be used for so many different things. But today I'm adding in my meatballs because that's what this video is about after all, spaghetti and meatballs. If you haven't yet made my gluten-free meatballs, go to the video linked above for the recipe. You are gonna love them. My husband claims they are the best meatballs he's ever had, and he will definitely tell me when he's not fond of something I make. He has no problems telling me. And if he tells me it is good, then I know it's good. So I'll put the lid on this and ajar again, just slightly ajar, and just let the meatballs simmer in the sauce for another 30 minutes, and then it'll be ready to serve. And in this case, I just took the easy way out this time and served the meatballs and sauce with store-bought spaghetti, and I think it was Ronzoni's gluten-free thin spaghetti, but most of the time I make my own spaghetti with my foolproof gluten-free pasta recipe. It is so good, and I'll leave a link for that above as well. But let me tell you, if you make this for your husband, your wife, whoever is important to you in your life, they are going to absolutely love it. I mean, the meatballs are out of this world. The sauce is incredible. You have got to make this. I hope you get a chance to. Enjoy.